Hey everyone, so today we're going to be talking about something that I think is very important that we don't overstate, but it's also important that we don't ignore it. So, this is from a recent press conference that Donald Trump did. I'm going to play the clip and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it.
Lose or draw in this election, will you commit here today for a peaceful transferal of power after the election? And there has been rioting in Louisville. There's been rioting in many cities across this country, red and your so-called red and blue states. Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster.
I understand that, but people are rioting. Do you commit to making sure that there's a peaceful transferal of power?
We want to get rid of the ballots, and we'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation. The ballots are out of control. You know it, and you know who knows it better than anybody else? The Democrats.
All right, and so let's just first read the literal interpretation of what he said, just the face value of what he said. He said, if I do not win, then you know that something was amiss, and I do not commit to a peaceful transfer of power. He was very clear about, he did not commit to saying that, I want to ensure, I will do everything in my power to make sure that things are peaceful if there is a transition of power. He also very clearly says, mail-in voting is fraud. That's what he basically said. Mail-in voting, it's not legitimate. You should not trust it. If the results show that I do not win, then that means that we know that it is not legitimate. Now, I know that there are a lot of people that will rush to, this is just him saying stuff that he doesn't actually mean. Because, to be fair, that is something that this president does pretty frequently. He says things that don't really represent anything. He really talks off the cuff a lot. But I think that this speaks, which is why I think it's important that we don't overstate this, but I do think that it shows a much larger thing that I think is something that we should be concerned about. There is going to be a ton of controversy on election night. And I really don't want to feed into the fearmonger or anything like that. I just want to be as realistic as possible. But when you have the president of the United States saying that, hey, this large portion of the ballots are not going to be legitimate, and he's just saying this just because he's worried that it won't help him, that is concerning. And what is most concerning is if there is some sort of doomsday scenario where the in-person voting shows Donald Trump winning and mail-in voting shows Joe Biden winning, and there are people saying that there's conflict, that it comes to conflict over that. I really hope that it doesn't come to that. I hope that there is just an overwhelming number of votes for Biden. That way, it's just not even a question. You know what I mean? If Biden wins by 15 points in every single state, there's really nothing that's going to happen. Now, all indicators do not suggest that is what's going to happen. It is Biden is doing better than Hillary was at this time, but there are some very troubling signs coming from the Biden campaign. I know that Biden doesn't even have a campaign office in Michigan. And now we all know Donald Trump won Michigan in what was pretty much an upset. And that was because Hillary Clinton had basically more ground game than Biden, but a very, very limited ground game in Michigan. She really took it for granted. Now, I do think, though, that Joe Biden is a different candidate than Hillary Clinton. We saw in the primary, he was able to not really campaign, not really have ground game, and honestly dominated. He really did. And there are a lot of factors that, us leftists, we have a lot of problems with the things that happened, some backdoor deals from Obama. I don't want to get into that, but regardless, Joe Biden did perform pretty well without having really a ground game at all in the primary. And so does that mean that he could do the same thing in the general election and just sweep through, just kind of basically coasting off of name recognition and the fact that he's not Donald Trump? That is very likely. I actually think that is probably the most likely scenario. But the real concerns start jumping in when there's Donald Trump is trying to create this air of delegitimacy. And now how far he wants to take that is really a question. Does he want to take that to the point where he wants to hold on to power as much as possible? Or does he want to do a little bit of if I lose, I want to be able to save face, and that way I can still go on the media and, start my own news network and talk about a bunch of things and, say how I actually won. But then it doesn't actually materialize anything tangible and Joe Biden actually becomes president. Or is there going to be an intense legal battle, an intense civil battle amongst people? I truly hope that that's not the case. But just when the president does not say, "Oh, I want to do everything I can," that should be the first thing. If you're answering that question, even if you have a problem with mail-in ballots, you should say, "I want to do everything I can to make sure that this process is peaceful." I have my concerns with mail-in ballots, but what is most important is that no one gets hurt because of this election. That's what someone would say. That's not what he said. He said we should be, the mail-in ballots are fake, and that I don't know. Like I said, there's gonna be so many people that say that like, oh, that's just him talking off the cuff. But there are people who take him literally. There are people who take him very, very literally, and this is, we are in for a ride come November, and like I said, the best thing that we can hope for is just an overwhelming turnout for Biden, just because you can't really disagree with that. There's a lot more angles to this, and we'll definitely talk more about it in the coming weeks. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you disagree with anything I said, or if you think I got anything wrong, please leave a comment down below. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and have a great day.